I thank you so much, Pam, though, for joining the author's table, and we made it. So
We
this,
did it.
yes. Now, let's get started in about like how did you get started in writing, Pam?
Oh, my 10th grade teacher, we had our was creative writing, and he sent my short story into a science fiction digest contest. And he didn't tell anybody until after the contest.
Mm.
And at the end of the school year, he handed me the letter from the Writer's Digest, Science Fiction Writer's Digest, with the check and said, "Congratulations, you took first place."
Oh my gosh. Oh,
So, uh, he was really besides my mother, he was really the one who got it boosting because now my parents were like, "Oh, you can do this. I'm
well,
impressed. You can do this."
well, he saw something in you, though.
Yes. Yeah, he did. And
Yeah.
another teacher could have just been, she's good. Meh, you know.
No, that is awesome.
And
Um,
then it took me 45 years to get another award. So,
hey, take them, right? Also, uh, you have total of 77 books and journals now, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
now
it's up there.
and now your first book was that the House on Cedar Ridge? Was that your first one?
No, my very first book was Across the Wilderness. Actually, it was called Home of the Braves. And when I got my rights back
Mm.
from the publisher, I rewrote a lot of it and self published it as the Wilderness series.
And that was how many series are in that?
There's 5 books in that series.
Okay.
It's time travel, and it's about the Lakota Indians. Little Bighorn Battle, Wounded Knee, the first one.
Now
Time
what?
travel.
Yes. Now what made you get into that kind of genre?
I love history and I love
Mm-hmm.
science. My contest that I won was actually a science fiction story about the very first woman clone, um,
Wow.
which back then nobody even knew what cloning was.
That's
So
right.
I think they were impressed because I did a lot of research on it. I
Yeah.
probably knew just as much as the doctors at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first science. So I like science fiction. I'm a Trekkie.
Yes.
Um, so anything like that, I was really into it. I
Uh,
was a nerd before everybody said that was like the cool thing to do.
that was the norm for you, right?
So yeah, that was the norm.
Now I know one of your most popular books is it's called the I Was Just a Radio Man.
Yes, that is still my number one seller.
Yes, and I believe my father has that book too, and I remember you signing it, and he loved
Yes.
it, and
Oh, good.
oh yeah, he loves that. He
I'm
loves
glad.
history, and can you go in a little detail about that? That was on Aviation Chief Radio Man Henry Lawrence. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. He was my father,
Mm-hmm.
and when he sat down, he wanted to just write the memoirs for family. And as we got deeper and deeper into it, there were a lot of things that he did not want to put in because of the type of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were other things that he couldn't put in because he was a radio man. Little things like that. Being the why child, I think, was also one of the reasons why he wanted me to help him with the memoirs because I
Mm-hmm.
was the one who always said, "What did you do? Why did you do that? What is radar? What do you mean? Do you know the codes? Can you tell me them? No, you can't know them, Pam." I mean, just,
Well, he knew that you would do it and do it right.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah. So I did it in his words. He did not want fluff. So if you don't know what a 50 calendar bullet does or what a bomb does, you don't read this book because all it says is we were bombed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he talks about cleaning up after Pearl Harbor and he just says we cleaned up. And I had someone email me. I'm glad they didn't put it as a review, but they emailed me and pretty much ripped me a new one because
Mm.
I didn't describe what they were cleaning up.
Uh,
And I made a rookie mistake, even with all my experience, and I went, blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
blah,
Well,
blah, blah.
in a way, that was sort of protecting what you did, and that was your father. So that was a
Yes,
defense, you know.
if you don't know what was being cleaned up, you should not be reading the book. You really shouldn't. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want the grandkids young,
Hmm.
my grandson Rylan at 12 reading it. He wanted my niece at 30 reading it. You know, you have to understand what war is about. And if
Hmm.
you don't know what those bombs did,
That's right.
he doesn't. I mean, he did tell me some of the things. He did tell me about the matter that they cleaned off the walls, the
Hmm.
leg that was found, the single gold ring that was just a gold ring. He did not want those in there because it I think it brought too much memory to him.
Right. Hmm.
And so he wanted to talk about the things that was more of the actual battle from his perspective. Um, did you did you ever see the movie Pearl Harbor, the second one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
you know how they show the plane strafing and then they show another airplane being rolled to the hangar?
You're right.
It was him and another guy who was shooting the 50s. Neither one of them have ever shot out of an airplane before. They learned real quick,
Oh, yes. You have to.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's all he says. We learned real quick. We learned how to shoot 50s,
Hmm.
and they took turns pointing out where they were coming from and
It's
all of that
because
stuff.
it's a
So
very detailed book, though, too.
it is detailed. A lot of his information is very detailed. It's backed up
Hmm.
by the Smithsonian. Pensacola has checked it out. There's countless, probably over 100 museums that have copies of the books.
Fantastic.
Someone from California told me that Berkeley had it because they were going to donate their copies to Berkeley, and they were like, "Well, we already have a couple of copies." They gave it to Stanford.
Hmm.
So now I have colleges that the book is in, and I've had a couple of teachers order books um, for their students.
Ju-
So it's very real. It's a very real story, and there's no fluff
well,
in it.
there's so many people that can relate to that, though, from their grandparents and
Yes,
you know.
yes, and I think that's why it is my best seller because
Hmm.
there's younger kids who are like, oh well, all they did was mention Pearl Harbor. I want to read what this was really all about. Or someone else came to me and said, almost all the World War II books I have are from the pilot's perspective, and this is from a crewman, and I want to read that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's unique and it's honest, and I think that's why it's successful.
That's right. It came from the heart,
It
literally.
came
You
from the
know.
heart.
Yeah.
Neither one of us thought anybody would care, just family, because it was just about him. So
That's where I think people will have a connection, though, because it is family, and it's not something that you're just making up. This is real stuff.
this is real stuff. Yes. I mean, it
Yeah.
just a lot of it, he wanted to keep the emotion out of it. But also, when he talked about it, it was almost, and I think this is why he survived. I think he disassociated himself. It happened to someone else for those 4 years. And did
Hmm.
he have a little shell shock? Is what he called it. He didn't call it PTSD.
Hmm.
He said he had shell shock for about a year after the last battle. And he had the survivor's guilt, which he did not want to put in the book.
Right.
He didn't want anybody to, because he always wondered, why did I survive Pearl Harbor? Why did I survive some of the crazy things that
Oh.
he did that he didn't want in the book?
Well,
He climbed he climbed out of the blister while they were in air, walked across it and dislodged something that was stuck and walked back. This is at night. I don't know, maybe 500, 600 feet above water, going at full speed, and he crawled out of the blister.
Oh my
He
goodness.
goes, I don't know what I was thinking.
It wasn't. Oh my gosh.
And he just looked at it as I did what I had to
That's
do.
right. Yeah. That's right.
So, I mean, some of the stuff was kind of crazy what they did. I think there was one time he talked about leave and they were having fun with the Goonie birds. And all he said was they had a couple of drinks, but he was like, yeah, we had a couple of drinks, all right, wink, wink. You know, I was like, well, Daddy, you were 19 years old.
Yeah. Fighting a war.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fighting a horrible war,
Yes.
a war that was just based on hate.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds crazy to a lot of people, but he may have been prejudiced against the Japanese, but he didn't allow us to be.
Hmm.
So, and that's got to be a hard thing to teach your child, to not resent someone who tried to kill your father for 4 years.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
of all the books, Pam, that you've done and journals, is this the one that's probably the most rewarding?
Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my fiction books,
Sure.
but this is just, it's so in the heart.
Hmm.
Every time I talk to somebody about the book, I think of him. And when I was younger, and I'm sure you probably went through it too, your friends were like, who's your hero? Who's your hero? And I would always say my dad, and they were like,
Hmm.
no, 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 no. Who's your hero? My dad. He was a Pearl Harbor survivor. He was a decorated veteran. He stayed in the Navy for 18 years after the war as a reserve. He was a firefighter. He worked for Raytheon. I mean, there's just, he did
Yeah.
so much. It would be silly to go, I didn't want to be like him. If I could be half the man he was, I'm doing really
That's
good,
right. Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
And it's just so people never understood that he really was my hero.
Well,
There
you,
was nobody else who could compare.
no. Of all of the things that your father has done, though, not just the war, but just in general, I mean,
Right.
that's just it's mind
I
blowing.
have I have to tell you a story. When I was 7 years old, he started working for Raytheon. And um it had to have been summer because I was home from school. And these two men in suits knocked on the back door and they came in, and my mother shook their hands, and I was just kind of like standing there against the wall wondering why these men in suits with a black sedan were parked in the
Mm.
driveway. And my father comes out with a briefcase handcuffed to him,
Oh.
and they escorted him to the Pentagon. So for like a week I'm like, oh my god, my dad's a
I'll
spy.
never see him again.
And my mom's like, he's not a spy. He's not a spy. Don't tell anybody about this.
Go to your room.
Yes, actually, she did. She
Yeah.
said, go upstairs to your room.
Oh my god.
So,
Yeah.
seriously, I mean, what would you say if you watched your dad walk out of his bedroom with a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone, you can probably write a book on. You know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true too. Well, I don't know because he never told me much about that. So there was a lot of stuff that he's like, no, I
Yeah.
can't tell you. He didn't talk about work because he worked at Raytheon,
Right. Right.
so, and, he would joke around and say, well, I build the washers and dryers. Well, when I got older, the washers and dryers were built in building one. He ran building five. So I know.
you, you got enough information there. Oh
Yeah, so it's ironic that the only
yeah.
thing he could talk about was his firefighting days. He couldn't talk about the war,
Yeah.
and he couldn't talk about his work at Raytheon. It's just
He's got
right
enough.
there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, enough
Yeah.
enough stories to tell just on firefighting. I mean,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Oh yeah, I could tell you some horror stories on that one, but you
Now,
know.
but I was going to ask you too. Are you currently writing a book now?
I'm taking a breather because my third book of the Cedar Ridge Hills Museum just came out. I do have it plotted up here with a couple of notes. I got to learn more about Hawaiians because my character is a Hawaiian, and I don't. I know one person who lives in Hawaii, and I talked to her a couple of months ago, and I told her that I wanted to pick her brain. So I'm going to see her at the next book event, and hopefully she'll be able to have time to sit with me so I can get that perspective of
Oh, sure,
living on the island. I don't even know what island he's living on. I just know that his parents are have a fleet and go fish.
sure.
So
Well,
that much I know how to do. I know how to fish, so I can figure that one out.
so maybe that's. I see a trip coming. Maybe, huh?
I no
No.
no I don't fly anymore. I used to, but for some reason as I got older, I have driven all over the lower 48s. I have literally been in every state in the lower 48s and stayed in them.
See now that could
I,
be another book.
I love to travel. I
Yeah.
do. I love to travel and I love to see things and I love to meet people. And I've met people from all over the world. I mean, I've been to Canada,
Hmm.
so, and New Brunswick and that kind of thing. So I
Sure.
have left the country. My husband now, he's been to all 50 states. He's lived in Japan and Okinawa and all that stuff. So
That's
I can
awesome.
pick his brain.
Yeah. Now for like, what kind of advice can you give like a new author or someone that's just getting started, and like what can you advise them?
Oh, just this is going I don't know if this is going to sound right or not, but don't listen to new authors. Just take what they say with a grain of salt. You really got to pay attention to what experienced authors have done and what they have tried that worked
Hmm.
and didn't work. And if you want to sell your book, you got to start marketing yourself months, months before you even publish or apply to a publisher
Hmm.
because the competition is so fierce.
Oh, sure. And it all
And
depends on too what you're writing about. You know
it depends on what you're writing about. Correct.
if you have to get licensing and all that stuff too.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
I'm an established author. Most of my readers want my time travel.
Hmm.
I do have some that are not, but my time travel is what sells. I mean, the first book of the Cedar Ridge Museum series,
Hmm.
that sold almost as many as Radio Man. So,
That's
when
awesome.
it, right. So, but Radio Man is consistent. It consistently sells the same amount of books daily, where the Cedar Ridge Museum, I got my 5,000 the first 6 months, and then it's trickled down to a couple of hundred a month, maybe. So, and that's typical.
That's a huge achievement just by itself.
That's considering that I'm self-published, yes.
Yes, that is
But
huge.
I do have a book with a publisher.
Yeah.
So I am a hybrid author.
You got the best of both worlds.
I do. And honestly, I have to brag about Adam Hoagie because he had invited me to do a book with him and other authors about marketing and advertising,
Mm.
and we hit the Wall Street Journal #4.
Number 4.
So, and
Congratulations.
his efforts, his knowledge, he's a fantastic publisher.
Mm.
He really is. And I was so proud that he asked me to join in with these authors. I was thrilled. And then when we hit the Wall Street Journal, I was like, I'm going to tell
That's
everybody.
right. That's right. You should. That's a huge achievement. That's wonderful.
Yes, yes. Like I said, it took me 45 years to get my next
Better
award.
late than never, right?
That's right.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now,
Yep.
now you have a website, Pam. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Yep.
like for
PamelaAckerson.net.
and that's where people can contact you or buy your books and so
They
on.
can, yes, sir, contact me, buy my book. I'm on Twitter, which is at Pam Ackerson. Facebook. I don't have as many followers on Facebook as I do Twitter, but I got most of my responses from Twitter, so I pampered it,
Sure, absolutely. Take
you
advantage of it.
know.
That's right.
So
And finally, when is your next book signing?
my next book signing is June 1st in Tampa. It's called Flirty in Tampa. It's a multi-genre.
Mm,
So it's not, because it says flirty, everybody thinks, oh, it's romance. And I really don't write romance. I have contemporary sweet romance. I have relationships in my book, but I do not write your formatted romance stories.
hmm.
Life has relationships.
That's
Therefore,
right.
my book's going to have relationships. That's how they are. And the one after that is Space Coast in Cape Canaveral.
Yes, and then we have the one in November.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I am so glad she invites me to that one. I love working with her.
Well,
She is fantastic.
oh yes, she is, and she always puts me close to you so I can, you know.
So
And that's awesome. But I always look forward to it every November.
yes,
And
yes, Valerie is wonderful and she works very hard to make that event a success.
absolutely. Well, Pam, I thank you so much for taking the time and we finally got through.
Right? Thank
Yes.
you. I mean, it's just who knows. I still don't know what it was, but I'm glad that we finally did it. And
Yes.
hopefully, when I have my meeting next week with Adam, I won't have these
No. No.
because
But
I don't think he's as patient as you are.
we worked out the bugs. Well, again, Pam, I thank you so much for taking the time and spend the time with me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you in November.
Yep. Thank you very much. And hey, if you can stop by the Space Coast Book Event, I believe it's on Saturday. I do not believe they charge for parking, and the book signing is free. So
Okay, fantastic.
yeah.
Well, well, thank you again, Pam, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you. Have a
You,
good night.
you too. Thank you. Okay, bye
Bye.
bye.